This is the first time in the past 9 years that a T-Town downpour hasn't slowed the competition. I'm sure that's a fact that pleases everyone in this beautiful corner of northeastern Oklahoma. The National Race Director just called the drivers to the staging lanes, but we have a few minutes to find out how our 8 qualifiers got to today's race. The drivers qualify through performance, plain and simple. The number 1 slot, or the pole position, is determined by the driver grabbing the lowest elapsed time, or low ET. Making the 8 is only half the driver's headache on the way to the winner's circle. In the first round of eliminations, the pairing places the number 1 slot against the number 5 qualifier. 2 versus number 6, and so on. That could make the number 5 position a very unpleasant spot to be in. Yesterday, Frank Bradley, last year's defending ADRA world champion, fought his way back up the ladder.
You got pushed back to number 5. It's a kind of a bad spot to be in. No lane choice. Have to run the number 1 qualifier. What are your plans at this point?
Well, I've been having a lot of trouble with this, as you well know. We changed some of the stuff around on it last night. Started up a couple times this morning. It's hard to say. It sounds a lot better than what it did. I was having a lot of oil come out the pipes, and we got most of that cured up. I mean, this thing should go down that racetrack with no problem.
Dick LaHaye possesses an uncommon cool during qualifications.
Have we got any problems here?
No, really, Don. There's no problem at all. We run late last night, and we took the clutch out of it a little while ago, and we wanted to look at the bearings after running last night because the engine RPM pretty hard, and if we can stay right there, in the number 1 spot, we'll just wait till this evening and go out and run again.
LaHaye couldn't quite hold on to the pole when one of the sport's authentic legends pulled an old trick out of his helmet. The Greek, Chris Karamesines, went for a rare, extremely dangerous fire burnout. The idea is to soften the tires with fire. Sometimes it works. Other times it steals oxygen from the motor, killing the engine, turning the dragster into a death trap. The track conditions are better than the drivers had counted on. Race Director Jim Tice told me this morning a new surface has made a faster track, but air density seems to be giving the crews a hard time. While the officials make a final check of the track, we can spend a few minutes at the Garlits home in Ocala, Florida. Big Daddy, they call him. Don Garlits has dominated his competition for over 3 decades.
When I got into drag racing, as you can see by the cars in the museum, it was totally different. Cars were built on car chassis. They're my original Swamp Rat's a 31 Chevy frame, $50 out the junkyard, less than $1,000 in the whole car. Today it's exotic aircraft tubing, titanium, aluminum, magnesium, all sorts of exotic metals. Change. That's what has happened. Everything has changed, and the ones that couldn't adjust to that change have been left by the wayside.
You've been married, how, 30?
32 years.
32 years? Did your life change when you fell in love, Don?
Yes, it did. I see, up to that point, drag racing had a real stigma on it. It wasn't a nice thing, because most of it was done on the streets. It wasn't the drag racing that you know today. And this is the drag racing that gave it the name that still follows it today in a lot of circles of this country. And of course, when I met my wife, she came from a very nice family. I decided I was going to give up drag racing and all of that hot rodding and stuff and lead a normal life. And then we got married. And about a month after we were married, we were going over to a little place over in Central Florida called Lake Wales, where they have the Bach Singing Tower, and we drove by this airport in Lake Wales, and they had a little sign that said drag races. I mean, it was just written in hand. And I said, honey, let's go down here and see what's happening. And that's where I won that first trophy, and I knew that's what I wanted to do.
Were you ever scared, though, in the beginning when you saw him racing?
Not at first. At first, I didn't think so. Of course, he was going speeds like 130, 125, and the only race that his mother has ever been to, he went 136, didn't he?
Miami,
In Miami. And that scared her. She said she just couldn't take it. She couldn't go back and watch it anymore.
Again.
But anyway, it wasn't until he had the fire in Chester, South Carolina, that it really registered that it was getting dangerous.
I remember reading a story, though, where he refused anything until, and being severely burned, but you refused anything until you could get to a phone call.
Well, that's true.
Call Pat
That's true.
and assure that you were okay.
Yeah. Told her I just had a little fire in the pits, but she better come on up.
Yeah.
And when you came, it was...
Oh.
It was...
The first thing they told me, the nurses told me, is that, well, if he makes it within the next 72 hours, then he's got a pretty good chance.
A quote out of Don's biography reads, "From a conventional small-town life to the unpredictability of professional drag racing, it wasn't easy."
And actually, if we'd have realized how much trouble it was to do it to start with, we might not have started. But you never look at it like that. You always look at, I set a goal and look at the end of it and say, this is what it's going to be in the end, and this is going to be good. So now we'll attack it. And the longest journey in the world, remember, starts with that first step.
Don has received more racing Oscars than anyone in sports history. Don Garlits is the king of drag racing. As soon as we get back from a commercial break, we'll start racing. Low ET gives the driver's lane choice, and here's how it'll stack up. Frank Bradley will race Buddy Warren off the top, Dick LaHaye and Jack Revell, Gene Snow with Bill Daly, and in the pole position, Chris Karamesines against the number 5 qualifier, Dave Miller. 4 drivers will make it to round 2, the semifinals. I'll be back. We've just started the first round of eliminations on Pro Drag Superstars. Frank Bradley and Buddy Warren are in their lanes. Don Garlits will be in the shutdown area after the second round, but right now he's in the pits waiting for the winners of the prelim. It's an easy win for Bradley, but it looked like Frank had a little trouble. We'll check with him in a minute. Next up, the number 2 qualifiers, Dick LaHaye against Jack Revell. Jack is one of the smaller but competitive independents.
Right, you don't have major sponsors. You're running this budget out of your pocket, right?
Just my wife and I working together, doing a little side job and what we can to get down the track.
The staging lights are set. Dick LaHaye, the winner, 593. Don is with Frank in the pits.
You didn't make a real good run. You struck the tires right off the line. You've had the engine all apart. Did you find anything wrong?
Well, last night when we qualified, we didn't run real good there, but we ended up in 3rd spot, so I figured first round, number 4 race is number 8, so I figured we'd have a fairly slower car, so I would try tuning the thing up, and evidently I went the wrong way. It shook the car real bad. We broke the fuel tank. There was a couple of pistons that I just wanted to look at, and they were fine. Motor's fine, so I'm just going to have to go with a different tune-up.
You don't have a slow car now. You have the low car in the first round, Mr. Dick LaHaye. Does it make you approach this problem any differently?
Not at all. All I'm trying to do is get my race car to run as quick as I can. Doesn't make any difference who I'm racing.
Very good strategy. We wish you the best, Frank.
Thank you, Don.
On the burnout pad, Gene Snow and Bill Daly. Gene Snow, known as the Snowman, looked like he could barely stop his car on the burnout. His crew looks worried. They're concerned. Looks like he's still going to run. Daly from Springfield, Missouri is trying for a top fuel first.
Well, we're going to debut our new funny car in June, and we'll also be running the top fuel dragster and carrying them both in the same trailer. Between my crew chief, John Davison, and myself, we're going to try to drive them both.
They're ready to go. Over the finish line, 6.35 seconds. A slow 160 miles an hour. Maybe it was that braking problem forcing him to shut it off early. Now Don's out there, and he's been able to round up Dick LaHaye and his crew chief. Don?
Any strategy changes for next round?
Well, we're going to step it up a little bit. It was a little weak on that run, and there's a terrible crosswind down here, and it blew me over about 6 foot right down by the finish line and almost up by the guardrail, and it kind of startled me a little bit, so I shut it off kind of early. And this round here, we're going to step it up a little bit, but we don't want to get into a situation where the thing is smoking the tires or anything like that there.
Chris Karamesines and Dave Miller are under the tree now. 6 seconds even. That's 0.11 of a second slower than he qualified with yesterday. Now that will pit Karamesines against Snow in the semifinals. Before we get there, though, Mary had breakfast this morning with one of racing's most interesting family teams, Kim and Dick LaHaye.
You've gone all the way to top fuel. How exactly did that start for you?
Back in the late 50s, everybody had some old hot rod that's what they wanted to, and I had a 53 Ford. And I went and bought a Corvette engine for it and put it in it. And I guess I was always very mechanically inclined. And, you know, back then it was most everybody's street race, and there was very few racetracks. In 1962, I built my first nitro burning race cars for the wanted to. And ever since then, we've been running the nitro dragsters. Just been traveling all over and having a good time, I guess.
So, Dick, you're not, or neither one of you originally from Tulsa. Where are you from originally?
I own a home.
So we try not to stay. We try to go home as often as we can. If it's within a 24-hour drive, we'll usually go back home between races.
Do you live next door to me? No?
Staying on the road with her. That's enough. Even though she's my daughter and I love her and so forth, you can spend too much time with somebody.
When you are under that pressure and that kind of tension starts to happen, there must be some sort of gray area. How do you work together?
I think it's mainly because that we understand each other. I mean, she's grew up around me, and I've actually, when you get right down to it, have grown up around her.
Been around each other all our lives, so we got to know, what do I want to say, quirks and,
oh yeah,
you know, things about each other.
You must be proud of Kim to see all the things that have happened.
I'm very proud as a human being, and just as a person, and an excellent crew chief, and a very concerned crew chief. But she's very competitive. She wants to win.
You're the crew chief, but in fact, the only woman crew chief in drag racing. What responsibilities does that entail?
Well, a lot. Whatever goes wrong with the race car, fixing it, repairing it, keeping the maintenance up weekly on it.
Are you going to be driving?
Sounds pretty exciting to me. I'm ready to start driving. I'd like to try it.
The crews have been working feverishly to put their cars back together for the semifinal round, and first up, it's going to be Chris Karamesines and Gene Snow. And let's find out if Big Daddy's crystal ball is working. Have you got a prediction for us, Don?
I predict that Dick LaHaye will win his round and Chris Karamesines will win his, putting Chris Karamesines and Dick LaHaye into the finals for this final day.
Uh-oh, it sounds like Gene Snow has turned off his engine. The Greek will still make his run. .17, 230 miles an hour. Whoops, Chris's chutes didn't open, so Don's not going to be able to talk with him. He's going way down the track. The last run in the semifinal round, Dick LaHaye, Frank Bradley. A very close run, and it's Dick LaHaye. We just heard, and I'm sure it's a tremendous disappointment for Gene Snow. His crew was concentrating on a bad brake cylinder, and they neglected to put oil back into his engine. A tough break for the Snowman from Fort Worth, Texas. Don's in the shutdown area, and I think he's going to be able to get a word in with Dick LaHaye.
I think he had a fantastic run, 5.90, 230 miles an hour. Wind's buffeting you a little bit. What did you think of the run?
Well, I was a little concerned there for a minute. I looked and Frank was right there beside me, and I put the thing in high gear, and I just must have out-muscled him in the middle of the racetrack because I just drove away from him. And I started getting down by the lights, and it was moving around a lot. And I get a little concerned about that because these things aren't really that stable in a crosswind. They go very fast, and so I shut off a little early. That's why I'd only run 230.
Well, that's real smart thinking, because safety always first.
Well, Don hit his winners right on the money. After this message, we'll get set for the final race of the day. And we'll hear a victory party here in Tulsa with our final rundown, the quarter mile, for over $150,000 in contingency and sponsorship monies available only moments away. Let's hear what Don has to say about our two drivers and maybe get another prediction from him.
As the sun sets into the west, we've got one run left. It's come down to two of the fiercest competitors in the sport, Dick LaHaye and Chris Karamesines. I'm going to have to take Dick LaHaye on the performance of his vehicle. He's been very steady, qualified at 591, run a 593 in the first round, and a 590 in the semifinal. Dick LaHaye is my pick.
The Greek, Chris Karamesines, and Dick LaHaye, who for some reason hasn't picked up a nickname, performed some of the most breathtaking burnouts in the sport. With Don's description of the way Dick drives, we could wind up giving him the handle Cool Hand LaHaye. The Greek has developed an oil problem. This time around, it's a single run for the trophy.
Yes, it was our day, Donald.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
587.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Well, we saved the best for the last, I guess.
Well, something happened to the Greek. They shut him off.
Well, I knew I was on a single, but you know, let me get this helmet off here.
Sure.
There, that feels better. I knew I was on a single. And, you know, we're going after this world championship and this ADRA thing, and low ET does mean some extra points. And we had it ready for the Greek in the final. We felt as though that we could get a hold of the racetrack, and I'm just tickled that we won, and this let us take over the #1 spot in the point standings right now, so we're just going to have to work for the rest of the season, I guess.
Kim, what do you think about your dad? 587 on the final.
This guy sure knows how to leave the starting line, tune this motor. He does an excellent job.
Well, I think you're doing one heck of a job yourself, and we're all proud of you.
Sure are.
Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you, Donald.
It's Dick LaHaye all the way, and Don Garlits will try to catch up with him at the winner's circle and try to get a couple of impressions about today's racing. Before Don catches up with him, let me show you some videotape. One of our Pro Drag Superstars camera crews was at Los Angeles County Raceway recently, and they found a semifinalist in the Motorsports English Leather Calendar Girl pageant. We're going to start following these girls and their careers in the pageants here on Pro Drag Superstars. At an event like this, it's unusual for Don Garlits to be an onlooker and not a participant. Must seem a little funny to Don, but for us at Pro Drag Superstars, we're sure happy to have him on our team this year. Thanks, Don.
Well, you know, it's a new experience for me, doing one of these things like this, not driving the race car, but I have really had a lot of fun. Of course, the race itself was tremendously exciting. A lot of very close races. A lot of good guys got beat. And, of course, a real good team won. Dick and Kim, we couldn't ask for a better winning than that. Very popular with the crowd. Had an excellent crowd here, stand-up crowd. And it's going to go down in history as one of the better Top Fuel races.
And next week, we're going to get to meet John Collins, another funny car driver. In fact, we're going to get to meet his family, his wife, Gail, and we're going out to the ranch to do some fishing, believe it or not. What else do we have to look forward to?
Well, we've got a tremendous field of funny cars scheduled. We've got John Force is entered, Tom Hoover in the Showtime, and as you mentioned, John Collins. So we've got a lot of good cars in this funny car show coming up, so don't miss it.